If you were to take a look at the biker scene in Canada in the 1970s, one club in particular would stand out. Now, you might assume I'm talking about the Hells Angels, but I'm not. I'm talking about the Satan's Choice Motorcycle Club, which at the time was the second largest biker club, not in Canada, but in the world. The man at the helm was Bernie Guindon, a founding father of sorts, who was president of the club at 22 years old. Think about that, 22. He's also the subject of a brand new book. In Hard Road, author Peter Edwards profiles Bernie's life before, after, and during his Satan's Choice days. Peter Edwards joins us now in studio. Good to have you with us.
Oh, good to be here.
How does this even come about? How did you get connected with Bernie?
I was doing a book on another former biker, Lorne Campbell, and Bernie showed up at his house one day and we got chatting. And he always just sort of on and off got a relationship going.
And how do you know at what point, because, I mean, you are very familiar with the world of biker gangs and writing about it. At what point do you go, okay, this guy's got a story?
You push him for about 3 or 4 months and you ask questions that aren't always comfortable. They can't have control of the book, like it's got to be my book. And so it's about someone, but it's not by them.
How tough is that balance to strike with your subjects?
You have to be ready to walk away from it. Like, you have to have it where I'm going to give this a shot, but if it doesn't go, it doesn't go. You don't go down with the ship on it.
Right, and with Bernie in particular, what surprised you the most about telling his story?
That he didn't ask for control at all. I mean, he didn't see any drafts. I handed him a copy when it was all done, and I said, there's some bad stuff in there, there's some good stuff. I tried to be honest. He just patted me on the shoulder, and that was it. Let's
talk about his personality. He never missed an interview. He was never late. Did that surprise you?
Not really, because I heard he was quite orderly. It's a stereotype that they all drink all the time or use drugs all the time, but Bernie's actually a teetotaler. Bernie's quite, he also was an international level athlete, so he's quite disciplined.
Yeah, I want to get to that in just a moment, but I have to say, okay, so opening the book, I opened the book and I was surprised by this. You open with a Shakespeare quote from The Merchant of Venice. You say, the sins of the father are to be laid upon the children. Why does that fit?
I think it's just perfect. And one thing I wish now I paid more attention in high school in Shakespeare.
Don't we all, though?
Yeah. Like at the time, you think it's all a bunch of sort of archaic language, and then it dawns on you just how good that stuff is.
And why this quote in particular did you say?
Because Bernie, I mean, if you're trying to understand him, his father had him fight with his brother in the living room of the family bootlegging business. And police officers and other people would watch them fight and then buy liquor, and Bernie would get 25 cents if he won the fight.
And then it was his allowance, essentially, right?
Yeah.
For it?
Yeah, and you wonder, why did Bernie turn out violent? Well, I mean, it was kind of, he was kind of programmed.
Yeah, and violence was in the household all the time.
And he's rewarded. I mean, you get at violence, you get something.
So let's talk about, fighting in the living room to fighting in the ring. He became quite a good boxer.
I'm extremely good, and I talked to George Chevello, the old heavyweight champion, and he, as soon as I said Bernie's name, he said leaping left hook, like he remembered the big punch.
Really?
Yeah, like I didn't have to say Bernie, the guy from here, the guy from there. As soon as I said Bernie, he talked about the punch. And Bernie's maybe, at the time, 155, 160 pounds, 5'8", 5'9". He's not a huge guy. He had a bodyguard who was about 350, and Bernie could have probably taken that guy quite quickly.
Really? So how does he go from, on a path to being a very successful, potentially successful boxer to heading down a different road?
For him, it was almost the same thing. Like the two went together. He'd train as a boxer, and then he'd go organizing these other guys. And the bikers fought quite a bit, and so Bernie would be in there fighting. It was a kind of a pre-weapons time, a pre-gun time, and so fists were a big deal back then.
And let's talk about life for now. What is life like after?
Very, very quiet. I mean, it's not what you'd expect. He spends a lot of time in a windowless room in the basement working on leather craft. He's quite good. I've gotten a whole bunch of things like belts and wallets out of this.
So that's what he spends his time doing?
Yeah.
And what did he think of the book? What kind of feedback did he give you?
I just told him I tried to be honest, and I put the good and I put the bad, and he was comfortable with that. Like I think just the fact that it was done is good enough. Like there was no control whatsoever that he had.
Why did he want his story told?
I think none of us want to be forgotten. I mean, this was a huge, huge deal, and it could be washed away like sand on a beach, sort of thing. And
do you find that you and I were just talking before we came up on air that once you've done one of these, you find some people knocking at your door, they want their story told as well? Is that the case?
With social media, you get a lot of people approaching you, and so you get. But you have to keep thinking, do I want to put another 2 years of my life into this one, and how is it going to be different than the last one? So you get kind of more and more picky, kind of more refined taste of what you want.
It's a fascinating read, so many layers to this. We appreciate you being in studio this morning. Thanks so much.
Oh, thank you.
Well, the book is called Hard Road. Here it is here. Author Peter Edwards has been chatting with us this morning. We'll be right back. Stay with us.